Good morning, all. Welcome to day one of Bank of Baroda presents IIM Bangalore's International Business Festival, Vista 2021, along with media partner ET Now. There might not be many people today who have not used or do not know about Safola cooking oil, Nihar natural hair products, parachute coconut oil, and Live-On hair serum, amongst others. Today, we are thrilled to host Mr. Harsh Mariwala, founder and chairman of consumer product company Marico Limited, a Fortune India 500 company that provides all these brands.
Mr. Mariwala was 39 years old when he started Marico. Today, Marico has turned into a $6.7 billion FMCG behemoth. He is also chairman and managing director of Kaya Limited. His passion for innovation enthused him to establish the Marico Innovation Foundation in 2003, which works towards nurturing innovation in India. In 2012, he started Ascent Foundation, a peer learning entrepreneurial platform. He also founded the Mariwala Health Initiative in 2015 with the philanthropic aim of giving back to the society. He has recently authored the book Harsh Realities, The Making of Marico. I'm sure you all are excited to hear Mr. Mariwala's views addressing leadership challenges and exploring new opportunities during the pandemic. Our audience can pose questions to the speaker through the Q&A section on your screens. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prashant, and thank you, Raghav, for introducing me to the audience. And I'm very happy to be associated with this event. I don't think I've spoken at IIM Bangalore event in the past, so this is my first time. I wish I could do it personally and not virtually, but there are benefits also of doing it virtually because many people are not able to attend personal events. So there is always a positive side, and that's what I'm going to talk about. What are the positive side out of COVID? Because every event like this, there are positives and there are negatives, and normally the human tendency is only to look at negatives. But as I see it, the virtual event enables you to reach to more people, and it's far more convenient in terms of not able to travel and not wanting to travel. So I see that as a positive, And on a lighter note, let me just say that the pandemic really helped me to finish my book. I had finalized a draft, but I was not happy, and it needed a little bit more of story element in it. It needed more emotions. It needed more anecdotes, and I was able to do that. My wife writes well, though she'd never written a business book, but in this case, I sat down with her every day because of the lockdown for almost 6 months, and we went page by page, and she was able to add a substantial value to the book. So the book is actually targeted towards professionals, towards entrepreneurs, and also students, and housewives also. I think anybody who is interested in human element would be interested in this book because it is written in a very easy to read story format. I've got feedback from many of my friends whom I've given the book to. So for those who are interested in knowing my story, all I can say is that you'll have a lot of take-home value. And different people will have different take-home value from the book. But I can assure you all the students will have a lot of take-home value because all of you are studying management or have studied management, and there will definitely be a lot of value addition in your own career. So you can pick up the book on Amazon or Flipkart if you wish to, and let me know how you find the book. So that, in a way, that was positive in pandemic. Otherwise, I don't know how the book would have got value added. It is already the bestseller on Amazon. On the day it was launched on 31st July. So I hope that I'm able to influence more people. The objective of writing this book is to actually give something back to the society, because it's not the monetary side of making money out of the book, but it is actually influencing others. And that has been my journey in my life. How can I make a difference to others? And many times I thought I'll send free books to people, but the publisher told me that, if whenever you send something free, people take it lightly. The mindset is that the book is not selling, so don't give free books. So I said, okay, And if you buy a book, then to that extent, you take it far more seriously. So that's why I decided not to send books to management campuses and others. Having said that, now I think the pandemic has had its own negative impact, and I hope all of you are fine now. And I mean, the biggest negative impact happened in the first wave amongst migrant labor. The second negative big impact happened in the second wave in terms of deaths and illnesses where we were not able to cope up with this pandemic. But hopefully all that is over. And I strongly feel that, we have to be cautiously optimistic. Things are improving. The vaccination rates are going to go up in the next 3-4 months. We have the serosurveillance also shows that the infection has happened to many more people than those who have been reported. So a combination of these two should hopefully will be able to control the third wave, which is expected to happen within a month or so. And whoever I've talked to in the medical field, they feel that the third wave is likely to be milder, unless there is a new mutation which may take place. Then that's unpredictable. But I think the key thing is we have to be cautious. You have to be cautious in this pandemic, and you can't take some undue risk. So whenever you go out, you have to wear masks. You have to keep the social distancing. And if all of us are cautious, to me, I think that will be a big way to actually control the third wave. But nonetheless, I see the business coming back to better normalcy. The second wave really helped us compared to the first wave because the organizations were able to learn from the first wave. The first wave saw a lot of panic buying, and organizations were all of a sudden everything was locked down, and it took a few days or maybe 15 days, 1 month for us to actually start supplying and meet our distributors' demand, dealers' demand. But the second wave was far more smoother because we've gone through the experience. So the first wave was fear of the unknown. What will happen to me? And that led to a lot of panic buying. The second wave was more serious in terms of fear of death. That all of a sudden people are dying. I will not be able to get admission. I will not get oxygen. I will not vaccine. I will not get ventilator. So the second wave was a different way. And I think our response is different compared to the first wave. So what really happened in the first wave was that when things locked down immediately, we saw that organizations which had invested in culture in the past did extremely well, because all of a sudden you were working from home and collaboration was very, very key to make things happen. Collaboration in terms of different functions, supply chain, manufacturing, sales and dispatches, and at every stage there were hurdles. So organizations which were able to collaborate quickly, organizations which had empowered people down the line to work on their own, rather than a leadership style which was highly authoritarian, were able to move much, much faster. And I think that was the biggest learning in terms of leadership style. So I think the key learning is that leaders have to have a leadership style which is participative, which is empowering, which is delegated. Of course, you need to get good talent, but I think that's very key. Otherwise, what will happen is, if you are behaving like a dictator or authoritarian leader, a lot of decisions will come to you and there'll be limited time you'll have, so you won't be able to cope up with all the pressure. So it's very important to get a very good team and create the right culture, which will help you in normal times also. I think the other thing in terms of leadership which came out loud and clear was authenticity. There was a lot of fear, there was a lot of anxiety amongst people in the first wave as well as the second wave. And everybody didn't know how to cope up with this. And the anxiety also translated to the family members also, whether it's parents or wife or children. So how do you deal with this was a big, big challenge amongst leaders. And I think what good leaders have done is to actually regularly communicate with their own members and also involve their families. This was a great opportunity, in my opinion, to actually reach out to family members. And the kind of work which Marico did in this area, I'm very proud of, because we did lots and lots of events, almost every day one event at different segments, whether it's children or wife or parents, which would cover health, meditation, exercising, hobbies, cooking, games, and there were internal contests. So every day, 1 or 2 hours, we were keeping our members busy in terms of having webinars. And I think that gave us a great opportunity to get closer to our family members of our employees. So that we never imagined that we would get that, because everybody was home. So they were all listening to all the webinars. And the family members also felt good about the company. Their affinity with the company increased, which in turn was good for us, because family members felt that the employee or the family member was in the right company. And that improved our overall motivational levels. We've done studies in terms of gauging our motivational levels, and every month we would do an engagement study, and on an average we got about 93% score for our engagement levels for all our employees. And that has really played very well in terms of keeping the employees engaged. We also used that opportunity to have 3 internal contests amongst our members. So one was on work from home, on challenges in working from home. How do you ensure that you are not fatigued? How do you make it far more effective? Number 2 was innovation. We threw up an innovation challenge to people that please give us innovative ideas, whether it's in products or processes or whatever. And we got lots of ideas. And third was in the area of cost management. Because of COVID, all of a sudden organizations realized that the cost structure has to be improved. And again, we got lots and lots of ideas, partly because of COVID itself, in terms of hiring people from small towns, making them work from small towns, hybrid kind of a work from home stance where you don't need that much office space. And we've cut down a lot on our office space. We have saved something like 3-4 crores per year on leasing of office space, plus travel costs. Now, in the past, whenever I had to interview somebody for a half an hour, 1 hour, or 2 hour meeting from out of town, I would call that person to Bombay. In future, we will not do so, because we are so habituated to doing virtual calls, and we are so comfortable for so long. So it's become an ingrained habit that it's okay to do a Zoom call and a virtual meeting, and we should avoid unnecessary travel. So travel costs, staying costs, lease costs, I think all these are huge opportunities for organizations to improve their cost structure. So organizations have become far more leaner, partly because we've learned from this, and partly because the digital wave has had such an impact on our lives. And I'll talk about it a little later also, how has digital helped overall our way of working forward. I think what other thing which happened very, very strikingly was the way the vaccines got developed. Normally, the cycle time for vaccines is anywhere around 8 to 10 years. And this we were able to crack it, we meaning globally, human beings, within a period of 12 to 18 months or so. And I think that's really shown us that you can, if you put everything, you can improve your agility levels. And I think organizations have to learn from this vaccine experience. How do you become far more agile? How do you develop new products which have a shorter time cycle? So I think there is a huge learning for that in terms of agility. And that means, again, collaboration, boundarylessness, working with outsiders, because outsiders also can add a lot of value. In this case, it is a global kind of approach which was taken, and many times working with your own competitors also, in taking some industry issues. So agility is a big, big learning from pandemic, and I think that agility has huge ramification on how organizations develop new products or do something which has long lead time. It could be a project also. And now we have seen in projects also, actually you can monitor a project through cameras which are kept at the site, and you can actually monitor each and every workman in terms of, are they wearing masks, are they wearing shields, and how is the productivity of the workmen. Otherwise it was all distance. So the top management sitting in a different location can put cameras on the site and monitor what exactly is happening on the project. So the project time cycle also, I'm sure, will improve. So the overall time cycle improvement is a huge kind of a positive because of the pandemic. I talked about authenticity. I think leaders have to be far more empathetic, and they learned through this pandemic that you have to be far more empathetic. You can't just be only performance oriented. You have to combine people and performance. And I think that came out loud and clear in the second wave, where there was a big fear of impact on the health. And we prioritize that health is first and performance comes second. So towards that, if anybody suffered, we said, you have to take care, you have to take precaution. We went overboard in booking oxygen cylinders, vaccinators, anything as doctors, so that any of our family members was infected, our team would reach out to their managing director, would call each and every person who had infection, saying that we are there behind you. please take precaution. If you need any other help in terms of hospitalization, anything else, we will make it happen. And not only the employees, but the family members also were put under this kind of a lens. So it had a huge, again, impact on the family, that the organization is far more caring. They never realized that we were so caring. And I think this gave a great opportunity to leadership to be far more empathetic and caring. In terms of, we also coached many of our members, and we coached them in terms of what we call wellness coaches, because pandemic hit in different way. There was physical health, you were sitting at home, there was mental health, and mental health is a huge issue, especially with so much pressure, sitting at home, cooped up in a flat, anxieties. And we addressed this through by tying up with mental health organization. And we also coached many of our leaders to be what we call wellness coaches. So they played a very proactive role in being a coach to all their teams. And I think that also had a huge impact on our overall morale as well as engagement levels. In addition to that, a lot of people took a lot of initiatives to meet this challenge. They went beyond their role in terms of what they had to do. I mean, they went out and took some big risks. And we started a Marico Recognized program where we recognized those people who had done extraordinarily well, which was much beyond their role. And every day I would get a mail that this team has done this well. So again, a great opportunity to recognize people. And I think recognition in India is much lower amongst Indian corporates. So it's very important that we recognize, because Indians think that if you recognize somebody, it'll go to the red. That's not true. Anything positive, if I tell you, you'll feel good, and then you'll have a very good opinion of me. So that fear of, it'll go into your head is completely unfounded. And I think organizations have to look at creating recognition systems on a far higher level in India, because it is lacking to that extent. Work from home also meant a lot of fatigue. So we said that once in 15 days, we would just have a holiday, that nobody would work on a virtual call on this particular day, just to give a certain break. We also had to give a lot of guidance in terms of liquidity, safety, and that also covered our key associates, because we treat our associates as our own members. So our associates, whether it's a packaging vendor or distributor or advertising agency, went overboard in giving advice on safety. Some of them had liquidity issues. We give them liquidity. And I think that also played a very important role in improving our relationship with all our associates. And finally, to distributors and retailers, what we did was we started geo-mapping what's happening in different parts of the country, which towns are closed, which towns are open, where the distributors closed. And we started dealing in those areas where there were problems of supply chain. We started supplying directly to retailers. We had a retailer app where the retailer could directly order from us. So the digital wave really had a big impact. And we also had a package for individuals where they could order on our app in terms of whatever, and we would deliver it through direct delivery. I think that played a very, very important role. And for customers who are we also have a Kaya business, which is skincare. We started doing a lot of webinars on skincare. We also started doing e-consultation free of cost. And now what's happened is e-consultation has become a way of life. And that has given us a different opportunity to get closer to the consumer. And now in Kaya, we can actually do e-consultations where we don't even have clinics. We can do it in a very small town. If somebody has a skin issue, they can do e-consultation, whether it's acne or whatever else, and they can get advice from our doctors. And we see good opportunities, e-consultation as a separate business or a change in our business model in Kaya. And finally, to society, I think it's very important. Organizations have to look at the society in terms of providing food, hygiene. We also ran a challenge in the first wave, a COVID challenge, where we said the Indian entrepreneurs can actually develop ventilators at a fraction of a cost compared to imported ventilators. And I must say, 2-3 organizations came up with fantastic ideas, and they were able to offer similar quality ventilators at a fraction of a cost. And we gave them grants. And so I think that worked out. The whole thing, contest was done virtually. In terms of opportunities for newer categories of business, we saw that the health was getting a lot of traction, and that is going to continue. So we launched a series of healthy products. We launched Saffola Honey, we launched Saffola Protein, we launched Saffola Oodles, which is healthy noodles made out of oats. And we also had our Saffola Masala Oats. And that category really fired. And, from a This year, we expect to do 400 to 500 crore turnover in that category. That category is increased by 70-80% in the last 1.5, 2 years, and it's going to increase much more. In the next 2 years, we see that category going to 1,000 crores. So this trend in health we caught it very early, and we launched and developed all these products virtually and got it done. So I think speed, agility also again played a very, very important role. I think one other thing which has got traction in the environment is the overall awareness about sustainability. And that's being demanded by all the stakeholders, whether it's employees or if you go to campuses, most students ask us, what is the company doing on sustainability? And we use a lot of plastics. But we have ensured that 95% of plastics we've used is either reused or recycled. So we leave a very little plastic in the environment, 5% of our, but that also will get tackled over the next few years. So we have a target that 100% of plastics will get recycled or reused. So the sustainability has played a very important role. And now actually this got expanded to what is known as ESG, which is environmental, society, and governance. And that has become a very hot topic in all the boardrooms. All the investors are asking organizations that how are you compliant on ESG? And there is a lot of I think pressure coming in from different angles, which is very good, very positive, because I think that's going to make organizations far more robust and far more socially responsible. And I think investors will not invest in companies which are not ESG compliant. So I think that's a very good positive sign out of the ESG was there. In a way, most of the trends I have talked about, they were there, but they got accelerated multiplier times. And I think that's what has been the big impact of COVID, We have also made acquisitions, because in this time frame, what happened was we saw a lot of new launches in what is known as D2C space, direct to consumer. And many of them, after reaching a certain scale, they were not able to go physically in terms of distribution. So they put up brands. So we acquired 2 brands in this time. One is Beardo, which is, I think both of you have a little bit of beard. So it's for beard, and it was again made by 2 youngsters from Ahmedabad we acquired. And it's done well. We have done a turnover 100 crores in Beardo. And the other is Just Herbs we just acquired. But the D2C has to be managed in a different way. It cannot be combined with your existing organizational structure, because things move very, very quickly in D2C, and you need to have a very agile team, which is away from a large organization. I think that's what we have done. We also will buy more and more D2C brands over a period of time. And all that has had a huge impact on our performance. We had a very good year last year, and also the first quarter. Though we were impacted by inflation, because inflation has hit most organizations in the last 6 months or so. But our share prices have gone up by 70 to 80% in the last 1.5 years, which is very positive. I think organizations which have supply chain from China, we see a good opportunity for Indian organizations to occupy, especially if they're cooperative. So Indian companies which are very competitive to China, there is a huge negative against China, especially in certain markets like US and Europe. And I think that's a great opportunity for Indian companies to leverage on. If you look at other new opportunities, because of sustainability, we've seen opportunities in the area of pollution, air purifiers, green products, natural products, environment in terms of clean fuels, renewable energy, electrical vehicles, 2-wheelers, everything has got a huge impetus because of COVID, And again, in hygiene, in terms of wash products, sanitizers, we ourselves launched a product which was Veggie Clean, which was a product to clean vegetables and fruits. So that was another thing. Even in terms of touchlessness, touchless shopping, robotics, drones, immunity boosters. So there is a whole host of new opportunities which have opened up because of COVID. And because people are working from home, need for gadgets, robotic cleaners, air filters, laptops, PlayStations, music instruments, TV. I think all that has got a big fillip because of the pandemic. I covered a little bit of digital, but if you look at digital, whether it's e-commerce, our sales in e-commerce have jumped up from 3% of our total sales to 7% within 1.5 years. And we have taken it proactively. We look at e-commerce from an opportunistic angle, because that's a great way to reach the consumers And we can also leverage our D2C brands on e-commerce. So e-commerce has taken a huge, and that's, people have got used to it. It's not going to fall. E-learning, you've seen companies like Beardo and others, kind of valuation that commanding is amazing. And you've seen Paytm, Zomato, all this has occurred a lot because of the pandemic. All this could not have occurred. They would have had this kind of valuation maybe 2, 3, 4 years later, but it has got just advanced by 3, 4 years. I talked about e-consultation companies like Practo, M-Fine, e-deliveries, I talked about Zomato, Swiggy, e-prescription, you've seen PharmEasy and a few other companies which are very active, and again their valuations have gone up. And finally, e-meetings, companies like Zoom and other companies who are enabling you to do virtual meetings. The business model also, I talked about Kaya, how the business model has changed in e-consultation. And similarly, we saw restaurants where you're not allowed to visit the restaurant. They've gone to cloud kitchens, and many of them have actually made an entry through supplying food at home. And to some extent, it will fall once the restaurants open up. But it's new opportunity where they have leveraged. And hotels also, you've seen that many of the leading hotels have staycations on a weekend, and the rates on a Saturday night in the same hotel will be double than a weekday, because people want to spend Saturday, Sunday at the hotel, just be away from their homes, So I think this is my reading of the pandemic. I see it from a very positive angle, and I see that it has impacted our lives. Of course, I mean, for those who have lost people in the family, there is very strong negative. But as I said, I think every crisis has two sides, and there's a saying, never waste a crisis. So I think we have to look at the positive side of the crisis. And all I can say is this too will pass. Let me just end by saying that I am negotiating with the Indian Institute of Management Bangalore for putting up a chair in the name of Professor Ramcharan, who is a co-author of the book. He's been a great help to me, and I'm going to fund that chair hopefully for 6 years. And the chair will be for innovation and leadership. I already had discussion with your dean and top team, and awaiting their agreement, which should get done within the next week or 15 days. I thought since I'm talking on this, I should mention that. But my MD, who's also an alumni of Indian Institute of Management Bangalore, and he's really added a lot of value to me. So I have a lot of high opinion of Indian Institute of Management Bangalore, and those who are here from that institute. So thank you very much for inviting me. We have to learn to live with the situation, take precautions. But all I can say is I'm very positive, very optimistic that things will be better from now on. Of course, we are frustrated. We are not allowed to travel as much, but hopefully all that will be behind us in the next 3 to 6 months. So with that, I'll end my talk, but anybody who wants to ask any questions to me, most welcome to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful talk. We have our chats flooded with questions, so we will take a few of those. So the first question was, you mentioned that there were opportunities arising for companies that are moving out of China, and also for Indian companies which can ride on anti-China sentiments in the Western world. But what we have observed is that in past 1-2 years, majority of the companies that moved their production out of China did not really come to India, but went to countries like Vietnam. So where do you think is India lacking in terms of regulations or red tapes or skilled labors, where we're not able to attract the foreign production manufacturing in our country?
So you're right that a lot of investments went to other countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, and we need to improve upon our infrastructure. We need to improve upon our ease of doing business. And there are a lot of reforms which are yet to be done in India, whether it is judicial reforms or administrative reforms or labor reforms also, which have been pending, which are not yet passed, or agricultural reforms. So there's a long way to go in terms of reforms, and just not reforms, but how they're executed also is equally important. Many times execution is wanted. We also saw that in GST and some other reforms. So you have to move faster. You have to improve your ease of doing business. In some cases, our overall, because we are subsidizing something else, the industrialists have to pay a higher cost. For example, you're subsidizing water or power to agriculture. Somebody else has to pay to meet that subsidy. So that gets added to the industry. So I think we have to be far more competitive. in terms of our input cost. The infrastructure in terms of road, railways is improving, but I think still need to be done. But I think the key thing is to identify where there is more value addition which India can do. Because if you start to compete with very basic industries where it is more labor arbitrage, we may not be as competitive. But if you are in more value-added businesses where there is a human talent is used in terms of improving capability, then I reckon that we'll be better off compared to Vietnam and Bangladesh.
Sir, we also talked about how during the pandemic, businesses are changing. Like a lot of companies are going online.
Yeah.
But many companies are struggling to strengthen their e-commerce strategy. Even
Yes.
companies who had strong foothold in the offline world.
Yes.
How is Marico motivating customers to buy from your own e-commerce website instead of marketplaces?
So I think you have to look at both. You can't say you will only do yours, because a lot of people are, and it doesn't matter whether you do it from your own or do it from Amazon, as long as it is resulting in sale. But I think the first thing is that e-commerce has to be handled through a different structure, because you can't combine that with your normal structure. So you need to have dedicated structure for e-commerce, and individuals who are young, people like you, are far more equipped to understand consumer trends than people like me, because this is something which is not just digital marketing through these e-commerce sites, but how do you generate demand? How do you do digital marketing? And what kind of offerings to be done? There may be some different way of giving some incentives to the consumer. So it has to be handled through a different organizational structure, hopefully very young people who are digital savvy. And as I said, you can do it on your own, and you can do it through others also, like the big players. And to me, I don't think that's very critical. Of course, you should try and do it on your own. You'll be better off. But as long as that overall contribution of e-commerce increases from any route, I think that's fine.
Thank you, sir. So one concern that I see here is that I see a lot of urban and rural divide. We're talking about going digital, but in India, we see there is a large prevalence of digital divide. And then we're talking about e-commerce going digital, using webinars to reach out to people.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, how effective is this for people having low internet access or not even having internet? Because in India, about only 600 crore people have internet. 60 crore people have internet. My bad.
So you're right. I think if there's no access, you can't be digital. But hopefully with the government, I think I read somewhere that the investment in digital will give a far, far higher return than investment in infrastructure. So the government should invest more in creating the digital infrastructure, which will give you the connection. And I think that will help you in other ways also, because especially in rural areas, we have to improve in agriculture, we have to improve in education, we have to improve in healthcare. And a lot can be achieved in the areas which are cut off. By being digital, you can actually reach the farmer in terms of giving advice and cropping advice. You can give farmer in terms of, depending on the rainfall, fertilizers, input advice, pesticides, how to improve productivity. I see this technology playing a very, very important role in some of the big issues which the country is facing. And these big issues, I would say, are healthcare, agriculture, and education. You don't need to create so many schools. I mean, we have seen that kids have started learning. So in small towns or forget about small towns, very small villages, if you are not able to set up a school, at least you can start virtual training, if you have the infrastructure and if you have the connection. So I think it's very important that the government improves that on the infrastructure. It's a matter of time, but I see a huge positive, not only for organizations to reach these rural customers, but to drive economic agenda by taking a leap. And we've seen what happened in the mobile compared to the earlier telecom days, and many of you must have been very, very young before mobile came in, or when mobile came in. So, I mean, we couldn't get a telephone connection. You see the impact it has had on the economy. And the same thing could happen in others if the digital infrastructure is created, which will happen. I'm 100% sure it will happen. So it's a matter of time. India is a large country. We have to have some patience compared to, and people go on comparing India to Dubai or Singapore. But I mean, their issues are much smaller. They can be handled in a much quicker manner. And we have to realize that India is a large country, again, a very diverse country. So it may take some time, but we have the critical mass in terms of numbers. And if we're able to pull it off over a period of time, we have a potential to be one of the largest economies in the world.
Also, sir, we talked about like your Kaya Limited. So,
Yes.
but we see that a lot of beauty firms are using multiple technologies in business industry, beauty industry, like AR, skin analyzer, etc.
Yes.
Does
Yes.
Kaya plan on to venturing into this?
So good question. Actually, we are going to launch our AI-based app, as well as where initially we will give it to a doctor. So if you go to a Kaya clinic, and what we've done is we've uploaded the images of those who have been treated in Kaya. So if you go and say that I have a certain pigmentation on my face, for example, what will be the effect if I take a series of treatments? So we can, based on what we've done in the past, it will show you straight away that after you do 6 treatments, your face will look like this. Or if it is, so any acne also, if you have acne, you will see this much improvement. I can show it to you day 1, based on the whatever data which is fed in. And I see that as a big opportunity for us to convert customers. We will also have that app on our website, so you can actually log in and see what will be the impact if you have an issue. So I see it as a big opportunity for us, and that is going to get launched. We've been working on it for last, again, 1 year. Through pandemic, we started working, and we will launch it within the next 10-15 days.
Thank you, sir. Sir, again, another question is alluding to the supply chain in FMCG companies. Obviously, it's more like the elephant in the room for any FMCG company. So in the pandemic, what are the challenges faced in the manufacturing part, like the earlier part of the supply chain, trying to cope up with the disruptions?
So initially it was starting the factory. There was huge resistance from the family members to allow our own staff to enter factory because of the fear of COVID. So we had a huge issue in terms of attendance itself because of that fear. And we went overboard in ensuring that we had an online doctor. We went overboard on safety, precaution, masks, social distancing. And to some extent, we were able to mitigate that. So that was the biggest issue. And then after that, availability of transportation, freight, I mentioned about distributors not opening, dealers not opening. So the whole supply chain, again, starting from our own raw materials, from our vendors, they would not come on time. So you had to look at the whole supply chain and ensure that technology played a very important role, and the organization looked at the whole supply chain in terms of what was coming in the way. And can organizations proactively deal with that situation, not asking the person who was impacted to do it on his own. So we would have to step into distributor shoes, we have to step into dealer shoes, we have to step into our vendor shoes, and ensure that they are able to operate and whatever was needed, whether it was safety, whether it was digital connections, health issue, or doctor. We had to look at the whole, all our associates, vendors, and distributors. So I think that mindset is very, very important to ensure that things move smoothly. And it's just not pandemic. I think separately, we just need to look at all our stakeholders from that angle. So organizations are just not meant for shareholders. I think organizations are meant for all the stakeholders. And there's a big difference between shareholders and stakeholders. You as my employee is a very important stakeholder. I have to overinvest in you. And if I overinvest in you and treat you with care, empathy, and also your own development, then to that extent, your engagement levels with the organization will go up. You will be far more motivated. You will feel, yes, I'm working for the right organization. You will have family members who are saying, yes, you're working for the right organization. So you're operating in an environment that you feel positive about the organization. Of course, I have to put you in a role which leverages your strength, which gives you freedom, which gives you empowerment, which gives you challenge, and which also pays you in a fair manner. So if you do all that together, similarly for our own associate, they will be charged much more. So, and all of them are interrelated. If all our employees work at a peak, it will start showing in organizational result. If the organizational results are better, then the shareholders benefit. So there is a virtuous cycle where all the stakeholders, whether it is employees, customers also play very important. Your own shareholders, society, and associates, they are all interlinked, and the organizations have to go beyond what they do it in a contractual manner and actually make that big difference to their lives.
Sir, with regards to your book, Harsh Realities, making of Marico. So we discussed that it is going to be very beneficial for management professionals. But we'd request you to, if you could sum up few key lessons that a potential reader should look forward to while before reading the book.
So, so I think at the end I have given some sort of advice to students. Let me just take out. I have it with me, but give me a minute. I don't know where I have it. I think there are 8 maxims I have for the book, and I'm just trying to get that. Just give me half a minute. Where are the maxims? How many papers You carry on with one more question. In the meantime, I'll try and search for the maximum.
Sure, sir. Sir, you talked about Marico taking initiatives to ensure that it addresses the mental health related issues of its employees, especially during the pandemic.
Yes.
But what is your personal opinion about a virtual workspace environment? What we have observed, it's getting a little more toxic. It's getting more exhausting. Even as students, we're tired of doing it online, learning online. So while short-term productivity may have gone up, what do you think about the long-term productivity? Is virtual working environment sustainable?
So a lot depends on the kind of business you are in, For a brand like Beardo, I talked about, we have announced that we will recruit any person as long as you have digital connection. You can operate from a village also in Tamil Nadu, and if you're capable, we'll take you on, But for our main office, what we've done is we have announced a policy for hybrid working, where 2 weeks in a month you have to come physically, 2 weeks virtually, and that's a good combination of That's what we've announced. The office is not yet open, but people enjoy coming to work, and they also have some benefits from home. So we've kept that flexibility to employees. I don't think there's one right answer. For organizations where things can operate independently, especially in IT and backroom, people can work from home, but that has its own challenges in terms of availability of space and things like that. So I think it's a mixed bag, but we have to go on experimenting, and I see a hybrid kind of solution which will be far more effective at an overall level. Now I've got that thing about the book, and I think my 8 maxims, and this is relevant for many of the students, and all that is covered much more in detail in the book, but I'm just telling you, I think you have to leverage your own strengths. I'm saying every person has a God-given gift, and many of us don't know what is our God-given gift. So my suggestion is, each of you, if you can sit down in a room with your family or close friends or those whom you know well, and tell them, okay, please tell me what is my strength. Many of them you may have known, but some of them you may have blind spots. And what are the areas requiring improvement? I think that is the starting point. Once you get that, and once all that is arrived at, then my viewpoint is that it's better to concentrate on strengths and build a career which is based on strengths. So 75-25 rule, where 75% of the effort should be spent towards improving your strengths, 25% in terms of nullifying your weaknesses. Unless there are some fatal flaws you have, then you have to look at nullifying that weakness at a higher level. But by and large, strength is something which will normally turn into a passion. And if you are choosing a career where you're very good at, you'll enjoy doing it rather than taking a career where you're not good at. For example, I'm not good in, say, technology. I will never take a career which will need high level of technology, because I'll be struggling always trying to understand what are the issues. But if I choose a career which is based on consumer understanding, which I'm good at, I will enjoy doing it, and my chances of success in that are far higher. So I'm saying leverage your strengths. Number 2, be focused. We try to do too many things. I'm not saying against that, but at some stage in life, if you want to really excel, you have to be focused. Narrow down your options where you want to succeed, and go all out in that, because focus leads to depth, and depth leads to excellence. If you try to do many things, for example, you like, say, 5 games, you can't be excellent in all 5 games. You have to choose which is the game which you will be excellent, and then you have to go all out on that, and then to that extent you have to reduce and involve in other games, because if you concentrate on all that, then you will you are focused, and then it will lead to depth and excellence. So organizations also have to look at focus in terms of their product portfolio, what they're doing, and just reduce some of the things which are not adding too much value. Number 3 is risk taking, and this is very relevant for management students, because I think every person has failures, and you have to take risks in life, calculated risks. I'm not saying take blind risks. You have to experiment. It's okay to fail, because if you don't fail, every person in this world has setbacks. It's like saying that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I say that sometimes you win and sometimes you learn and not lose. So out of every failure I've had, there are learnings, and all that is captured in the book very well. I've had multiple failures, but how it has impacted positively over a period of time. And I don't want to share that maybe over the time constraint, but each and every failure has led to learning, which has had a huge positive impact on Marico's journey. So learn to take risks. Don't take a completely. You have to do a proper homework while taking risks, and we encourage people to take risks, experiment, and you can prototype through de-risking if the stake is very high by doing it on a very small scale. I don't know whether I have time, but I have a lovely poem which is written not by me but somebody else. I'll just read out. To laugh is to risk appearing the fool. To weep is to risk appearing sentimental. To reach for another is to risk involvement. To expose your ideas, your dreams before a crowd is to risk their loss. To love is to risk not being loved in return. To live is to risk dying. To believe is to risk despair. To try is to risk failure. But risk must be taken, because the greatest hazard in life is to risk nothing. The people who risk nothing, do nothing, have nothing, are nothing. I have many more examples, but otherwise this itself will take a long time. So I'm just saying, just give you a flavor of what is included in the book. It is aiming for win-win negotiation, reinventing yourself, purpose in life, grit, which is a combination of passion, determination, perseverance. So there are lots and lots of learning at an individual level, which again, given in a story format, which will be very appealing and which will be very light at one level. Professor Ramcharan is, after each, and he's a guru, which he's written many books, and his books are 30 books, and he sold some like 4 million copies. He has captured, out of my story, he's given insights and turned it into management language and captured that. So all I can say is you will not regret reading the book. You will definitely have some take-home value.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. We have now reached the conclusion of this extremely insightful session. On behalf of the viewers, in fact, my 13-year-old cousin who's watching this live and just pinged me to thank you for starting Parachute Hair Oil, as well as Team Vista, I extend my utmost gratitude to you, Mr. Harish Mariwala, sir, for taking out time from your busy schedule to grace the event. Today's session about the leadership challenges and new opportunities during the pandemic was pragmatic and candid. It offered deep insights into the topic and also revealed some interesting facts about the organizational challenges that Marico faced during the pandemic. The point where Mr. Mariwala told us about the role of empathy in effective leadership really struck a chord.
Sir, a small token of our gratitude, we have made a contribution to Enrich Lives Foundation in your name. The contribution has helped serve 3 square meals. Serve 3 square meals to 10 children impacted adversely by COVID-19. I would like to thank everyone who attended today's knowledgeable session. I'm sure that there would have been a lot to learn. I once again thank everyone for making this program successful. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you very much for this contribution. I'm truly grateful to all of you. Thank you. All the best to all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.